Hey guys, I'm Ian. I'm quite excited to be here tonight. It's going to be a simple presentation. I really thought I was presenting to beginners. I wasn't sure, but turns out most here are intermediate. So please bear with me. It's going to be somewhat simple, but I hope you guys gain some insight. Wait, this is not working. All right. So Ian, I'm CEO. I have my own company. That doesn't really matter. We're here to talk about Flutter at the agenda. What is at the agenda tonight? So introduction. It's going to be. I'm going to start with a basic introduction with Flutter. I think I'm going to mainly skip it since your guys are intermediate, as was established when I asked. And so I don't know if you guys know Clean Code. It's quite a seminal book about how to program well. We're going to have a short introduction about that and the core concepts that we can find within the book. So the fundamentals. And then we're going to brush over the basics of Flutter, integration, and the most interesting part will be probably the case study. The integration is quite simple, and then we're going to have a Q&A. So what is Clean Code? Clean Code, it's really simple if we stay with the basics of it. So the first principle is meaningful names. Every variable, function, and class should have a name that expresses its intent. So what it does. This reduces mental load, because as we know, as programmers, we have everything in our head and we try to make sense of everything. So if we have a simple, clear name that explains either the variable, or the function, or whatever, we can just play with that in our head. More easier than if we have like a name that is this long. Sorry, Java, I don't want to mess with you, but you know yourself. Anyway, then we have a single responsibility principle. Quite simple too. So it's the principle where you have a function with a clear name. We have established that's important. And then the function has one responsibility, single responsibility principle. One responsibility, how we structured that, the abstraction of it. It's a bit more than what I have the time to explain, but remember that if you say, I want to go into it, but I don't think I have the time. For the questions, after, we'll go into the questions, yes, after. Then don't repeat yourself or dry, which is don't duplicate code, because otherwise you'll have more things to manage afterwards. And then also simplicity is quite key in this. Okay. Oh, wait. I just dropped this here because this is confusing me. Okay, so I was at the wrong slide. Sorry about that. And moving on, Flutter. We all know Flutter, it seems. Yes? Please say yes, everyone. Perfect. Next. So why combine both? Why combine Flutter and Clean Code? And so, as we established, we are programmers. We did a lot of things with our head, and we have to communicate that with others. When we establish clear guidelines as to how to structure the code, we have a better way to communicate and scale from there. So it's about standardizing the code. And here I wrote scalability really to talk about how it's easier to maintain, easier to communicate, and therefore easier to maintain collaboration. Because when it's clear in our head, we have ease of communication. We can then more easily debug and test and communicate simple parts to others. And of course, while I don't think everyone likes, or most people don't like working with legacy code, I think it's an important concept that we have to be able to know that in the future, our code will be read by other people, not necessarily us. So future-proofing is a big advantage of using Clean Code, or doing Clean Code. Well, this we skip, because since everyone knows Flutter, of course, as per the question I asked earlier. I'm sorry if there are questions. I'm a bit tight on time, I'm told. It is what it is. Okay. Widget composition and separation of concerns. So I don't know should I talk about this? Yeah, sure, okay. So in Flutter, it's all widgets all the way down from the top to the bottom. And so we're talking about here composition, which means composing widgets from other widgets. And here we have also the concept of, once again, of, did I put it? Okay, I didn't put it, sorry about this. But of abstraction, layers of abstraction. So we want clear names, and we want to be able to, boy. So okay, so I'll try to keep, I'm thinking about something, but it's way too far from what I'm talking about in order to make it simple. So yeah, I think I'm going to make a shorter presentation than what I would like to make, but. Okay, no, I'm mostly worried about time, but since I'm encouraged, I will take all the time. Okay. So, in clean code, we have the concept of abstractions of layers, right? Layers of abstraction. And here we have here we're already touching slightly upon the concept of layers of abstraction. So we have a layer of abstraction layers, and within this layer, we have names that are clear within the layer. And above, we have more abstract names. Below, we have more fine-grained, detailed names. Same thing with widgets. We want to create small widgets that are within the layer of abstraction with names that are relevant to that layer, okay? And so, so keep the complexity low or relevant to the layer of abstraction you're at. I'm just trying to find, okay. So let's just go to this slide. Yeah, so I was talking about naming conventions, consistent and descriptive naming. I did not add an example, but that's okay. Okay. So another cornerstone of writing clean code is ensuring that your naming conventions and overall code readability are top-notch. When you name your variables, you should strive for clarity. Each name should immediately give the reader an idea of what the element is for. This might sound simple, but it's an often overlooked aspect of coding that can have a massive impact. In addition to good naming, effective comment is crucial. So use comments wisely. Instead of explaining what the code does, which should be evident by the code. Code should be self-documented. That's my take on that. Explain why an approach was taken instead of like explaining what the code does. Why does the code do it this way? So this will help future readers of the code take decisions for changes concerning the code. Also, Dart's post documentation comments, which you can use to generate API docs. That's good to know for future proofing your code. So managing state for clean code. So it's a critical aspect of any Flutter app that is slightly above us. Well, any critical app, really. Any app, I believe, has to some degree. Well, it's false. Okay, it's false. If you have like a one-page app, you don't need state management, but let's say for at your level, I think all of you will have apps that require some sort of state management. So the basic ones are such as river pod, provider, block. And while each has its strength and trade-off, the common thread among them is the importance of separating the business logic or the state management logic, if you will, from the UI. So when you tightly couple business logic with UI code, you create scenarios where even a small change would have unintended consequences in another. If we go back to the previous talk, or one of the two previous, I don't recall which one right now, where you have both the Android and iOS and Flutter. So you can kind of imagine how you only want to communicate the business logic, but if it was tightly coupled with the UI, then you couldn't do the communication because you're jumping from Flutter to Android or iOS. What else? Okay. So yeah, by isolating the state management in its own layer, you make your UI code cleaner and more focused on rendering, while the logic that handles data changes and updates is kept in a dedicated class of service. For example, using provider allows you to manage state in a central location. UI widgets simply subscribe to changes and rebuild when necessary. This separation not only aligns with clean code principles, but it makes it much easier to test your business logic in isolation. Clean code makes it more easier to test your business logic in isolation as you integrate a state management solution. Think of a way where you can reinforce the division between app presentation and the underlying logic. Tooling for maintaining clean code. There are linters. Well, okay. I'm trying to improvise because I wrote the text, but I'm trying to improvise at the same time. It's kind of hard, but let's go on. So writing code is, clean code is not just about how you write code, it's also about using the right tools. And so one of them is, of course, Flutter Analyze that helps catch potential issues early. Flutter Format that ensures the code adheres to a consistent style, which is something we touched upon earlier. So consistent style in order to standardize the code, in order for it to be easy to communicate within the team and to the future maintainer of the code and maintainer of those who modify the code. And beyond those built-in tools, we can also use additional linters such as Dart Analyzer. And additionally, I strongly recommend to do code reviews as part of any essential practice. Yes. Beautiful. My favorite part, the one where we see actual code. So this is an example of a code where, is it? Oh, yes. This is a class called user profile. So basically, it's a class which sole purpose is to handle UI rendering, business. Okay, sorry. I'm trying. Is it visible to all of you? Okay. So, sorry. What this does is just. You have a user profile. Oh, well, wait. I just want to make it. Sheesh. Where's my mouse? Ah, it's here. Small. Okay. All right. So as we can see, we import the material library. We have a class called user profile. We have the state of the class. And what it does is we have here where we fetch the user data. And this is just like a magic function that calls an API and actually fetches the data of the user. So what are the issues here? What are the issues you guys are finding? Yes?
There's a business logic directly in state.
Okay. What else? So we have business logic in, how do you put it? Business logic in
the state.
In the state? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I should have removed that. I should have removed that. Sorry. Okay. So according to what we talked about, what was earlier, what else is there?
Should be a stateless widget instead of stateful widget.
Stateless widget instead of stateful. Anything else? All right. Let's actually analyze it. I just want to. Okay. So yes. Before we had a single widget handling UI, business logic, and state changes. Yes, you read the comment well. And we also had poor naming and deeply nested code. So what we had exactly was user profile state, init state fetch user data. But what I'm suggesting here is two files, two classes. So we have the separation of concerns, and we don't have deeply nested code as we had earlier, like where everything is in one file, all nested inside one in the other. So here we have user service. Instead of having the user service here, we have it in its own class, and so this simplifies the code. We don't have within one layer, which is the widget. We don't have also another layer, which is the call to the API. Good separation of concerns, and user profile. As you said, we only have you said it only a stateless widget because the state is. But here I also use a feature builder. Okay. Okay. So we can see that the principles have been applied to improve maintainability and clarity. The key changes here were the separation of business logic and UI. And we moved the code responsible for fetching the user's name into a separate class you call user service. And the class now handles the API call, and our widget simply relies on it to provide the data. So this only displays data. And also it has been refactored to a stateless widget. Instead of managing the state internally, we now use a feature builder to handle asynchronous data retrieval. And so, yeah, the sole responsibility, which we talked about earlier, the single responsibility of this widget is now to render the UI based on the state of the future. And so the separation of concerns make the widget much easier to test, maintain, and extend in the future. So it's now more clean code, and more modular, but also made it more resilient to changes. And so now if we have a change to we want to make a change to the fetching of user data in the future, we only need to change user service instead of having to go into the widget. So this is a simple example of how to apply clean code principles in Flutter, how it can lead to more robust and maintainable applications. So to recap, use meaningful names, single responsibility principle, also adhere to it. Avoid duplication, use enjoy, don't repeat yourself. Keep things simple. So yeah, keep things simple. Let's keep it PG-13. And maintain consistency. So yeah, KIS, yeah, right? KISS, yes. And the Flutter best practices. And organize your project's file logically, compose your widgets by separating UI from logic, choose appropriate state management strategies, tools and techniques, linters, formatters, state management libraries. So using this, we have code that is easier to read, maintain, and extend. And so, I'm sorry? Oh, sheesh. Oh, sheesh, this guy. Thank you. Where is it? It's here. Okay. You think well, thank you. Okay. So the benefits would be improved maintainability, easier debugging, and smoother team collaboration. If there's any questions, please, it is time now.
A quick question. In the code you showed, you start the fetching of the user's name, right, line 15. I'm not sure how it works because I've never used a feature builder like this. But let's say it takes a long time. Is it still going to show what's in the build, or since it's like the first thing in the class, it's going to be delaying the display?
So this is calling the, wait. So if I can, your question is why? If this takes a lot of time to fetch,
Yeah.
what happens here?
Yeah.
That's your question?
Yeah,
Like,
basically.
It's a feature, so it's just a variable.
Right.
And then you put it in the, when it calls build, it will wait.
Right.
Okay?
Right. There's no wait. Right.
It doesn't like.
so it's, yeah, it's a future.
Okay.
We just input, yeah, you get it.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yes.
I have one question related to you sharing clean code. I will ask, when do we apply that clean code? Because if I start my project and I just have, let's say, one feature that I have to put inside, do I need to apply clean code?
Well, it's not a,
Just your feedback on that.
if you have one project,
One project and one feature, just one.
you have one project and one feature, I think it's good practice at all times to have clean code. Okay, wait. It's a habit, right? It's a habit. It's a habit, an instinct you build, and then you don't really think about it anymore. Please, go ahead.
If you're not releasing at least once per month, or you don't have 20,000 lines of code, you shouldn't do clean code. It's just going to be more.
Okay. So there's a method to the madness, which is, of course, when you have enough experience, you know what you're doing. You can't. It's like they say these things, know the rules before breaking them. So once you know what you're doing, I guess you can take that risk. But I'm firmly of the school that says, know the rules first. So know what you're doing first before saying, oh, well, in this function, since I'm doing very few things, or nothing beside this feature, I will do a single function, and that's going to do everything. Well, it makes sense if your app does nothing else, right? It could make sense in any case, but I personally have acquired the taste that clean code is cleaner than most code, so I just like it. So I would do it anyway, to have it layered, because I just find it more beautiful. Go ahead.
Your family, they're gonna put your name in the AI agent, and then when it's gonna go, it's gonna read all the code you ever written in your life, and they're gonna have a score. You know, so.
No, you're absolutely right, but I just want to bring up that see that with the clean code, the way you implement it, just really the final result, we need to know a bit more about how to implement the service. What is the state management? Where is those files? If you're the only developer, you need to take how you want it. If you're all together and you say now, okay, the project will take 3 months, 4 months, you will also need to take a step back and brainstorm before putting clean code. Clean code is good, but if you're ready to work as a developer, say you need to know a little bit more what you're doing before applying it easy. Keep it simple is not easy to keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just
Well, I'd just like to add that even the code you write yourself and no one else reads, like in 2 years, you won't even remember what you meant. So yeah.
It's just the organization, organizing it, come with a trainer.
Yeah.
It's really good. I'm not saying it's good. It's perfect. I was just want to see that.
Okay. Yes, please.
Would you consider what's more important, clean architecture or clean code?
By clean architecture, you mean something like, wait, let me pull out an example. So, what do you mean by clean architecture?
So if you had to pick one of the two, would you do clean code with a bad architecture or no? Because I think you systematically want clean architecture first and clean code after.
Okay. I don't see the difference, to be frank. To me, you need to do one and do the other, because clean code is just lower level, same thing.
Clean architecture is just a way to achieve clean code.
It's just a project structure and build structure and CI structure that you can get along.
But
What's the worst case of naming I've ever seen?
me? Well, it wasn't Java. It wasn't Java. It was like something factory, something singleton. I'm like, okay.
Let's say the common use case is like you go to a PowerShell
That's an excellent question, actually. This is for architecture. We'll talk about it later. But your question is excellent because we don't always enter a project that is new or that has space. You have the time to change, do meaningful changes to it. So my take on that is to always start with legacy code, like treat legacy code as the standard to follow first. And once you have followed that standard and you know how things work, because the code you work with is the language that everyone already knows when you enter a team, right? So follow the existing standards first and try to adapt it to make it better. That's progressively, but yeah, don't just come in a project, change everything, and then everyone's angry at you, you know?
You need to convince the team.
What?
You need to convince the team first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isolate it to a package first.
What?
Isolate it to a package first. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry?
Isolate things.
Okay. Isolate the package first. Yeah, I agree. Yes, please.
You mentioned a few of the state management solutions. Do you have an opinion on when you should use one or the other?
Yeah, sure. So I believe that some are heavier in terms of boilerplate code, such as Block, which I wanted to show. So there's more code to do the same thing than another one, such as Provider or Riverpod. And so if you have very simple requirements and you just go with the simpler one, in this case, I'll say Provider is enough. Like even simple app, like you don't even need a state management library if you have a very simple app. You can just use a stateful widget. It's really a question of complexity. But I like to do things standardized. So I always try to do Block. But I avoid it when it's not necessary, you know, but I just like it, so yeah. So I wanted to, but any other questions before I just talk slightly about architecture?
One last topic.
What? Okay. So I don't remember, you asked a question about clean architecture, right? To me, this is a clean architecture. So this is basically the division of layers. And I know you meant more than that, but to me, this is sufficient. Oh, we don't? A nice clean separation of concerns. So we have the UI or application layer. We have the domain layer, which is the one just below it, and then we have the data layer, which would be the database or API. Here we have some business logic, right? This is what when you tell me clean architecture, I tell you this I show to everyone. I just like it. And unless you meant something else, more.
You can have more layers.
Yeah, I know you can have more layers, but how far do you want to go?
Buy the book, like that.
What?
That was exactly what I was asking. How far we want to go?
Yeah.
Because it gets jumped with the over engineering.
Yes.
As an engineer, that's what I was asking. When you say that, what we can code, when you start.
This is minimum.
I would say humbly, I would say something what I said to my team. It really depends. I think that's also what Alexander was sharing. Sometimes you come to people who building. So
Yeah.
I have my opinion, I have my preference, and at the end of the day, people who are building, so they decide where you want to go and follow.
I agree with you. So it really depends about what the actual builders are more comfortable with. That makes sense with the project. Yeah.
Clean code sometimes, like what I've seen, just to share with you one experience with a team, putting in place the best architecture, sometimes you're losing for a while. So if you just start a project right now, so when you start Flutter project, you start putting in place all those things, people are new people will love.
Yeah. That's what PR reviews are good. That's a good reason. Like they teach the younger how to code correctly. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I don't have, unless there's something else. Cool.